Hey guys, tonight we tread ancient paths into the heart of Constantinople's secret past. Imagine yourself slipping through bustling market alleyways under the shadow of Hagia Sophia. You'll find stories hidden behind worn-out shutters, where apothecaries brew mysteries that modern medicine is only now beginning to uncover. Historians still argue whether snail essence was truly the miracle cure. You might end up believing it. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Pop into the comments with your location and what time it is for you. Maybe we'll find apothecaries in common. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You meander through old Byzantium, where cobblestone streets whisper secrets beneath your feet. It's easy to get lost here, both in the maze of narrow lanes and in the layers of time stacked like mosaic tiles, one atop another. The scent of herbs and exotic spices swirls in the air, hints of cinnamon, cloves, and something strangely earthy. That's the secret ingredient our guide, an old alchemist named Theophilus, keeps hidden. He beckons you closer to a merchant's stall, cluttered with curious glass jars. He carefully selects a small vial with a peculiar label, Celius extractum. You watch as he opens the vial, revealing a slow-moving creature, its tiny antennae quivering with each breath of damp night air. Theophilus grins, knowing that your modern-day medicine cabinet might be missing the strangest secret of all, snails. Back then, the Byzantines had remedies that seem almost magical now. Picture yourself receiving a salve mixed right before your eyes by a wise apothecary. Their shelves are neatly stocked with rare herbs and roots. But there's that jar again, this time full of snails. Some say they carried them in pockets for good luck, others for quicker access to cures during emergencies. Each shell seems to hold a story, a forgotten lore that we're only now beginning to unveil. Byzantine healers had an eerie way of fusing olden wisdom with the world's most peculiar secrets. Did they really know more than we give them credit for? Theophilus shares. In those times, they trusted a snail's essence like many today trust antibiotics. You nod, wondering how this slippery solution could possibly heal. But as you look around, the past starts making sense. The whispers of ancient markets, the clinking of glass bottles, all of it begins to paint a picture where snails are not just garden dwellers, but also agents of healing. A sudden noise, the clang of a blacksmith not too far away, breaks your reverie. You're pulled back into bustling Byzantine life, a symphony of sounds that never seemed to pause. Yet here in this quiet corner, with Theophilus guiding you, everything moves in slow, deliberate breaths. He reaches for another jar, this one filled with dried herbs and something dark and resinous. He says the Greek words with an ease that makes his wisdom evident, then translates. This, mixed with snail slime, was used for burns. Historians still argue whether the Romans actually borrowed these methods. Who knows the true path of ancient knowledge? It twists and turns, much like these narrow, shadowy streets. But there's no debate that snail lore was a secret staple for these apothecaries, carried close, used often. Steps echo through the lanes, and somewhere a child's laughter rings, mingling with whispered curses of haggling. You pause as Theophilus mixes a dark, viscous cream, telling tales of its potency. I'm sure you think you could handle it, but back then, survival was a daily feat, he muses with a wry smile. You probably won't survive this, not in body anyway, but certainly in spirit. The night starts to deepen, shadows grow longer, and the city's glow feels older, more mysterious. We walk down paths less taken, hearing stories that echo across centuries. Somewhere in the distance, a bell tolls, perhaps marking an hour, perhaps guiding prayers. But here, in these winding, ancient alleys, time seems to flow differently. A snail's pace is not so bad, after all. What about those snails? How much did they really do? Some say they were even used in love potions. Think about that next date. Theophilus leans in, sharing more fringe theories. For every remedy, there were 3 myths. Separating them was sometimes an art in itself. He winks, a seasoned story weaver who knows the power of a narrative. Picture this, a healer crouched over a stone table, grinding herbs under the low flame of an oil lamp. The faint scent of crushed garlic, rosemary, and something unmistakably slimy fills the air. Snails slowly move across the stone, mingling their essence with the concoction. Each motion measured, each moment deliberate. Theophilus tells you it was believed their mucus could make even burnt skin whole again. But why snails? Why among all creatures did these slow movers become mainstays in healers' pouches? Theories abound. Perhaps it was their regenerative abilities, mirrored in how quickly a snail's shell repair works. Or perhaps it was simpler, more pragmatic, easy to carry, living pharmacies at your disposal. Theophilus chuckles. Imagine explaining this to a modern doctor. You grin, because you already know the challenge. Today's labs are starting to rediscover some of those secrets. Scientists are now isolating components of snail slime that modern studies show promise. Yet, who would have thought these ancient alchemists held kernels of truths we're only now beginning to appreciate? Street lamps flicker to life, halos of warm yellow pushing back against the night. You step further into the stories, every word, every breath carrying you deeper into Byzantium's lore. Here, every shadow hides a mystery, and every tale holds a nugget of forgotten wisdom. Theophilus tells you about Healer's Alley, where different apothecaries competed, yet shared secrets in the quiet hours. They traded more than goods. They traded wisdom, he says, eyes twinkling with centuries of knowledge. It's places like these, brimming with shadows and secrets, that make you question the march of progress. Were we truly so much more ignorant back then? Or perhaps, did they see things we're missing in our race toward the next big pill? Historians still argue whether snail-driven remedies were merely folklore or factual medicine. Yet here you are, standing in the remnants of an old world, feeling the pulse of knowledge handed down through time. The Aphelis lifts a snail to your sight, holding its shell to the light. Tiny rainbow hues dance across its surface, a microcosm of its own. This, he begins, is no ordinary creature. In Byzantine times, each part held meaning: the shell's shape, its gradual movements, even the slime. It was believed to embody the essence of creation itself, slow but deliberate, sure but gentle. Much like the city that housed these secrets, each layer mattered. Some believed Snail's slow progress mirrored the healing process, symbolic and literal. The Aphelis shares an odd story. When Emperor Justinian's wife fell ill, rumors flew that snail remedies had saved her. But did they? Or was it a political cover to inspire faith in folk medicine? Even the whispers now, carried by the night breeze, seem filled with possibility and doubt. The night air is cool now, a gentle nudge bringing you back from tales that seem so vivid, so real. Yet here on these ancient streets, past and present blur beautifully. You walk slowly, each step revealing another layer, another story tucked into the folds of history. Time seems to expand, as if each moment is allowed to stretch out, revealing its own depth. And as we move through Byzantium, you know you're just scratching the surface. There are still herbs to crush, more snail secrets to uncover. Somewhere, in the darkened corners of this vast mystery, more wisdom waits, and perhaps historians will keep arguing each debate, each whisper just guiding us closer to truth. You pause, feeling the weight of ages, the comfort of secrets finally told. The street ahead curls like an old manuscript, each turn promising another chapter, another revelation. And here, standing on these worn stones, with the Aphelis beside you and the soft murmur of ancient knowledge all around, you realize how small, yet significant, your role is in this unfolding story. Each snail a tale, each step a new verse. You're ready to see what tomorrow reveals, each moment a layer unwrapped from these ancient, living scrolls. Your breath slows in harmony with the city's rhythm, a dance between time, tales, and textures. What other secrets will tomorrow's steps uncover? Somewhere in the labyrinth, an answer waits, and it's up to you to find it. Your journey continues, deeper into shadows where ancient remedies whispered through time, and where snails played roles more magical than mere stories about kings or empires. We'll uncover more as we walk these paths, listening to the echoes that only speak when we, too, slow our pace. The night deepens, mysteries expand, and somewhere in the distance, the Aphelis smiles, knowing another secret has just been born. You're tracing ancient practices. Each step reveals more of the Byzantine Empire's remarkable world. As you twist through their streets, discover how alchemy and olden secrets intertwined, especially with snails nestled in apothecaries' pockets. Imagine navigating labyrinthine bazaars, each stall brimming with herbs and tonics, their scents mingling with city smells. Byzantium was a melting pot of knowledge, where East met West and secrets crossed borders. Here, apothecaries combined remedies from distant lands with local lore. Among these potent concoctions, snails often played a starring role. Alchemists were the true rock stars of their day. They turned base metals into supposed gold and brewed elixirs, promising eternal youth. Yet, experts think their most revered concoctions had humble ingredients, ones you could step on in your garden. Snails were the unsung heroes, rich in natural mucin, the secret to youthful skin and healing wonders. Historians still argue whether some Byzantine formulations were actual magic or pure quackery, likely a blend of both. Alchemy was science and mysticism intertwined. These healers operated out of small shops, filled floor to ceiling with jars and herbs. Each shelf held a world of knowledge. One small vial might contain snail extract, while another harbored dried rose petals. They were masters of their craft, mixing nature's ingredients with reverence. In those days, snail jelly wasn't just the latest trendy moisturizer. It was a staple of apothecaries' arsenals, used to treat everything from wound healing to skin care. Snails slowly moved across their environments, obliviously collecting medicinal secrets from plants. When brewed into a tonic or ground into a paste, they became a versatile remedy, ancient skincare endorsed by the best in Constantinople. Yet, why did Byzantine apothecaries carry snails in their pockets? Was it a portable pharmacy on the go? Or were they cherished like mystical companions, a symbol of healing and wisdom? The mollusk's slow pace may have even mirrored the meticulous care Byzantine apothecaries gave their patients. Imagine a healer reaching into their pocket, pulling out a tiny snail, its slime-coated shell shimmering softly in the candlelight. Snails weren't just random choices. Their anatomy itself was fascinating, bodies with mucus trails that held life's mysteries. Each slimy step released compounds now prized in modern skincare. Byzantium's masters utilized every part: shell, slime, and body. Nothing went to waste. They crushed shells for powders and harvested mucus for balms, true zero-waste practitioners. Centuries ahead of trends, the whole snail transformed into remedies for skin conditions and digestive issues. Their mucin was a cornerstone, providing lubrication and healing properties. Modern experts still debate the true extent of these snails' contributions to Byzantine health, yet their presence in remedy recipes endures. Why the snail obsession? They were more than mere remedies. In the Byzantine cosmos, snails bridged practical benefits with mysticism. Stories whispered they could bring luck or protection, especially when worn closest to the heart or carried in someone's pocket. You might wonder, was this practice grounded in pure belief, Some healers claimed snails could channel healing energies. Others insisted snails were simply nature's most accessible pharmacists. The reality likely rests somewhere between both perspectives. After all, in an age before precise chemistry, who could distinguish between magic and science? Byzantine apothecaries needed reliable, portable treatments. Snails delivered this in spades, easy to transport and laden with medicinal promises. They became the quintessential companion for traveling healers and daily life practitioners alike. Every time you pass a street vendor today hawking aloe vera creams, remember snails were Constantinople's original skincare pioneers. How did snails fit into larger trade networks? Traders journeyed vast distances, bringing herbs, silks, and mollusks. These merchants became conduits, not just of goods, but of knowledge and healing art. Snails traveled from coastal towns to crowded city bazaars, merging with Byzantine alchemy and giving rise to new traditions. You're witnessing a confluence of practices, a world where ancient remedies danced with forward-thinking innovations. Byzantium thrived as a nexus, its practitioners constantly probing nature's gifts, blending them into treatments that still fascinate today. In those twisting streets and hidden chambers, we see echoes of wisdom, both mystical and grounded in surprising everyday solutions. You tread carefully through the streets, your senses alive with the vibrant tapestry of the bustling bazaar. Amidst the cacophony of haggling merchants and the pungent scent of exotic spices, you feel history breathing down your neck, secrets of a time where science and mystery walked hand in hand. Let's delve deeper. Apothecaries weren't just concocting potions, they were crafting legacies. In those times, when the line between science and what today might seem like pseudoscience blurred, the healers of Byzantium relied heavily on ingredients they could find around them. And yes, snails were among the most trusted. The mucin snail secrete was no mere slime. Experts think it held transformative properties, turning even the most worn and scarred skin into a semblance of its youthful past. And this wasn't some fringe belief tucked away in an obscure manuscript. Snails grace the pages of well-respected records. Emperors reportedly used their extracts as facial treatments. Let that sink in. Historians still argue whether the application of snail mucin was considered a luxurious beauty regimen or vital medicine. Perhaps, much like today's health fads, it was a blend of both, wrapped in an aura of mystery. Who's to say they knew the molecular science behind its healing properties? Yet, they observed, experimented, and passed down their findings, and not just for vanity's sake. The apothecaries carried these critters with them for practicality and potency. Imagine a Byzantine healer on the move. No time for fancy potions here. Need a quick remedy on the streets of Constantinople. Reach into your pocket for a snail, extract its mucin, and voila, instant relief for burns or cuts. Even their anatomy added another layer of fascination. Each slimy trail wasn't merely an afterthought, but a deliberate act by nature to bestow healing properties. Think of those trails as living vials of mucin, ready for collection, each one a mobile toolkit. This snail-centric wisdom became a part of the apothecaries' daily lives, both a practical solution and symbolic talisman. Every part of the snail served a purpose. The shells, which might seem like waste, were ground into fine powders for their own set of medicinal uses. Not to mention, crushed shells sparkled with iridescent hues, often incorporated into ointments and beauty treatments. Some scholars of the time wrote that these glimmering powders could catch the sun's rays and heal from within, a notion steeped in both pragmatism and poetic belief. Now, let's consider a moment of modern reflection. Today's labs echo this ancient practice, revealing that snail mucin truly does offer remarkable skincare benefits. But the real question is, how much did they truly understand then? Did Byzantine healers decode nature's cryptic manual? Or were they guided by a blend of intuition and trial and error? These ancient professionals, often painted as men cloaked in mysticism, were driven by urgency and the need for pragmatism. Their potions had to work, and while some of their practices seem quaint to us, they laid the groundwork for current innovations. A small pouch of snails wasn't just a bizarre curiosity, it was a lifesaver, loaded with knowledge refined over generations. While you stroll through these storied streets, the juxtaposition strikes. A city where the esoteric and the practical coalesced seamlessly. From twisting alleys to opulent palaces, snails wove their way into treatments and traditions, much like how contemporary essentials find their way into today's practices. As we stand amid echoes of the past, remember these olden secrets remain pertinent. The snails nestled in apothecaries' pockets, once dismissed as mere relics of mystical times, might have been the pioneers of a skincare revolution, bridging wisdom and whimsy, science and sagacity. Each slime trail they left behind marks a step in understanding the natural world, a reminder of the ingenuity and foresight of those who came before. So, who knows, perhaps their tiny, shell-bearing forms harbor even more mysteries, waiting for us to uncover next. Maybe in the flickering candlelight of some old archive, we'll find another clue, another whisper of how snails shaped an empire, and a concept of healing that transcended time. Traders traveled far, sometimes across perilous seas and desert expanses, bringing with them not just silk and spices, but also snails' secrets from distant lands. In the bustling port of Constantinople, maritime routes converged, becoming the lifeblood of the city's commerce. Among the imports, peculiar little mollusks nestled within barrels, destined for the hands of Byzantine apothecaries. Imagine a time where not just silk, but snails themselves were precious cargo. The main exports were easy enough: spices for flavor, silk for fashion. But how crucial were snails for health? Experts think Ancient healers treated these creatures with the same veneration as rare silks. Each snail journeyed through treacherous waters and arid expanses, ferried by traders who knew well the value of the slimy cargo. Their shells might seem fragile, a stark contrast to the robust spices that seasoned trade routes. However, in the medical markets of Byzantium, delicate snails rivaled even the most luxurious imports, each one an alchemical treasure. Historians still argue whether Roman merchants brought snails along with grapes and olive saplings to their colonies, hinting that mollusks might have accompanied the Romans into Byzantine territories. Some traders were known for their peculiar habits, keeping snails alive during travels. Picture merchants, their robes billowing, gently sprinkling water onto snail shells tucked in woven baskets. As you wander through the narrow market lanes, the scent of frankincense mingles with the sharper tang of imported wine. Stalls burst with colorful fabrics from Alexandria, spices from the Indian subcontinent, and those delicate little snails arriving carefully packed with moist moss. It feels like an anachronistic dream. Snail markets nestled among grand silk threads. A quirky side thought: among these esteemed imports, traders sometimes brought giant African land snails, revered for their impressive size. These weren't your average garden snails. Imagine picking up a mollusk the size of your palm, a living concoction of ancient remedies. Even today, some practitioners swear by these giants for their skin-smoothing properties. Now, let's consider the open waters. Maritime traders faced immense risks: storms, pirates, and the occasional kraken rumor. It's believed that Byzantine seafarers used snails not just for potions, but as a source of sustenance. Snail mucin stored safely, an ancient predecessor to our modern-day electrolyte sports drinks. Dehydration remedies in a shell, keeping sailors refreshed and rejuvenated. As the ship docks, the bustle of unloading begins: silks, spices, and snails. Picture crate upon crate of snails lined along with gold trinkets and fragrant frankincense. The harbor's cacophony crescendos, merchants shouting, wheels creaking, and snails sliding gently against wooden planks. In this symphony of trade, our tiny mollusks play a crucial overtone. And yet, in whispered corners, other secrets lurk. Historical records suggest that traveling monks carried snail-based remedies along with theological texts. These pious traders journeyed under the guise of holy missions, smuggling medicinal wisdom just as much as spiritual doctrines. Monastic routes became clandestine trade paths, each snail-laden basket a mix of faith and healing. Why did merchants risk so much for these slithery beings? Historians may debate. Snails could have held a place in ancient pharmacology akin to gold's status today. It's easy to dismiss those tiny feet crossing the hot sands of caravan trails, but their value rivaled the glittering treasures stored in emperor cellars. Every time you think of Byzantium's grand trade legacy, remember this: Among lavish silks and potent spices, the humble snail traversed the globe, driven by a purpose far more profound than mere survival. These mollusk migrations stitched a patchwork quilt of healing, mending wounds across cultures and epochs, a thread of ancient wisdom carried by some of the slowest, yet most resilient travelers. These creatures, beyond their economic worth, weaved through the tapestry of Byzantine culture, holding meanings far deeper than mere commerce. In your mind's eye, see the soft glow of oil lamps casting shadows against the bustling marketplace, a mosaic of cultural exchanges. Here, snails symbolize more than ingredients in a healer's cauldron. Each glistening shell carries stories of healing and spirituality, a silent ode to the power of life's slowest citizens. Imagine you're a trader journeying into Constantinople's heart, the very air thick with exotic scents and hushed negotiations. You watch as a monk gently unpacks a basket of snails, his eyes flickering with reverence. Why such care? Historians still argue whether these creatures held a spiritual significance beyond their medicinal uses. Perhaps they were emblems of perseverance, embodying the patience of nature's healers. The marketplace hums with tales of old, including one quirky belief that snail patterns mirrored celestial constellations, each shell a miniature cosmos. Just as sailors navigated by the stars, apothecaries believed the spirals and ridges of snail shells could guide their hands in concocting life-saving remedies. This curious correlation between cosmos and creature hints at a worldview where medicine and mythology danced together like constellations in the night sky. Let's walk into one of those aromatic stalls. The vendor gestures flamboyantly, showcasing jars filled with different snail varieties, each with distinct virtues. For a brief moment, the scent of lavender mingles with the musk of earth, as each jar is a silent guardian of ancient secrets. It's said that even court physicians held these mollusks in high esteem, though which ailment each variety addressed remains an open debate among historians. Some whispers suggest they treated everything from stubborn wounds to melancholia's grip. You meander further into the market, pausing to admire the silks from faraway China, threads shimmering like water in sunlight. But the nearby stall's snails catch your attention with a flicker of movement. Unlike their more glamorous counterparts, these creatures speak of resilience, how they carry within them the essence of survival across oceans and deserts. The merchants, masters of their trade, could recite each snail's journey, each one more epic than the last. They believed these travelers carried magic, that their shells contained the essence of distant lands, woven into their spiral forms. In some old manuscripts hidden deep within the libraries, there's evidence suggesting that snails appeared in healing rituals, a practice echoing across generations. Imagine a healer's chamber, candles flickering against stone walls, filled not only with herbs and elixirs, but with living shells, each whispering their own ancient story. Experts think these healers invoked Snail's wisdom, calling upon their earthly presence to strengthen potions and amulets. This intertwining of healing rites with snail symbolism paints a curious picture. Perhaps these healers envisioned snails as living archives, recording the wisdom of the earth in their spirals. Each soft footstep across their palms carried centuries of lore, a tactile history woven from mud and magic. This practice, so grounded in the belief of nature's power, reflects the intricate ways Byzantine medicine blended science and spirituality. Back in the main thoroughfare, a peculiar sight catches your eye, an apothecary displaying snails atop his counter, next to the more exotic ingredients. He smiles knowingly, gesturing towards these humble beings, his secret weapon. Picture him in his humble garb, an artisan of ancient secrets, knowing that each mollusk brought with it not just an ingredient, but a story, a cure, and a thread of the universe's grand design. As darkness fell on Constantinople, the traders and apothecaries wound down their daily labors, their thoughts drifting to the morrow. They'd once more embark on this strange dance of commerce and mystery, weaving the future with the threads of past wisdom. And in these tiny snails, they'd find echoes of their ancestors' wisdom, an old friendship with the earth speaking through centuries, cultures, and seas. The marketplace, once bustling, now rested quietly under the night sky, with snails dreaming patiently in their woven baskets. The market may have quieted as night fell, but behind closed doors, the work of alchemy and healing continued. Imagine stepping into a Byzantine apothecary's sanctuary as morning light filters through. Here, remedy crafting is both a science and an art, with every ingredient meticulously chosen. The air is thick with the scents of crushed herbs, simmering concoctions, and secrets whispered by ancient scholars. Historians still argue whether apothecaries relied more on medicinal lore or mystical beliefs. Perhaps it was an elegant dance between the two, snails slipping seamlessly between both worlds. You notice rows of tiny jars lining wooden shelves, some containing luminous pearls, others filled with curious powders. But there, nestled between dried lavender and amber nuggets, you find snails. Yes, snails, carefully stored alongside the exotic spices and rare minerals. How could a creature so slow carry powers valued by some of history's most renowned healers? Let's explore one mainstream historical fact first. In olden times, Byzantium was known for its flourishing medical practices, an ancient predecessor to our modern pharmacology. Apothecaries were respected, learned individuals, blending plant extracts with minerals and animal matter to concoct remedies for everything from fevers to heartbreak's ache. And amidst these hallowed halls, snails served more than merely a symbolic role. Their presence, though odd to modern eyes, was essential to many a mystical practice. Now for the quirky tidbit. Apparently, Some fringe healers maintained that snail slime possessed echoes of the universe's whisper. They believed the mucus trails were conduits of divine communication. A bit esoteric, right, but in an era when explanations were thin, any connection between Earth and cosmos was more than welcome. Remember, these apothecaries didn't have advanced lab tech. They had nature's bounty and a lot of imagination. As the sun ascends in the sky, imagine the apothecary at work. With measured precision, he takes a gleaming silver knife and gently coaxes open a snail's shell, extracting a small amount of silvery slime. This mucus, you see, was thought to hold unique healing properties, merging with herbal mixtures to enhance their potency. A few drops stir into a bubbling pot of rosemary essence, perhaps intended to clear foggy minds or soothe frazzled spirits. That simple act, caressing snail essence into a concoction, carried the healer's intention, a silent wish woven into the brew. Historians still argue whether snails were more effective as a placebo or due to actual medicinal properties. Some experts suggest today that snail slime does contain compounds beneficial for skin repair, lending scientific weight to what was once dismissed as mere superstition. But in the heart of Constantinople, these mollusks provided more than just a medicinal benefit. Their presence was a daily reminder that healing sprang from the slow, methodical rhythms of nature, a world away from today's pill counts. Their rituals felt rich with nuance, intention, and magic. Apothecaries, perhaps knowing how this might sound to us now, often spoke obliquely about their pocket snails. Their presence wasn't merely for show, but for utility. If a patient's condition required immediate attention, a snail's slime could be extracted on the spot, ensuring fresh ingredients for an urgent mix. In the era without refrigeration, portable ingredients were a necessity. The slower the creature, the better it could endure transport across cobblestone alleys and sunlit courtyards. Now picture a moment of respite in the apothecary's daily grind. He takes a seat, a weathered copy of an ancient medicinal text resting in his lap. With careful reverence, he reads passages describing how these snails were thought to aid in skin conditions, drawing toxins from wounds and leaving a layer of protective balm. Each sentence, laden with careful instructions and cryptic wisdom, carried centuries worth of hands-on knowledge. These mollusks, it seems, truly etched their stories upon the tapestry of Byzantine medical practice. Here's another fascinating notion: the debate surrounding snails' use in wound care. Historians still argue whether their antimicrobial properties were genuinely understood or merely intuited through anecdotal evidence. Given the apothecary's extensive records and careful notations, perhaps it was a little of both. They observed, they experimented, and often they saw what modern science is only now catching up to. The snail, in its humble spiral shell, was a keystone in a practice both mystical and empirical. As evening sets in, The apothecary tends to the snails, placing a few in small wicker cages lined with fresh leaves. Why? Because they must eat to produce that precious mucus. Snails were living instruments in these healers' symphonies. You can almost imagine him whispering words of thanks as he settles them softly. His touch, both a caregiver's and a practitioner's, a duality reflecting the alchemical balance of nature itself. In these humble, snail-filled moments, the practice of ancient healing intertwines seamlessly with daily life. The apothecary knows the old tales, snails as messengers of the gods, symbols of rebirth, embodiments of the earth's slow resilience. As he places the final shell into the soft bed of herbs, a sense of continuity flows, past wisdom anchoring present action. He knows tomorrow's sun will rise, bringing more seekers of cure, more stories woven into the fabric of Constantinople's ongoing epic. And as you stroll back toward the marketplace at dawn, contemplating that intersection of myth and method, it's all too easy to see why these mollusks carried a double legacy, an echo of healing's deep, resonant power. Each snail, in its seemingly passive existence, told 1,000 stories of survival, persistence, and an ancient world wherein even the most unassuming creatures could hold the power to change lives. As dawn tints Constantinople awash in gold, the mystery of the pocket snails deepens. Imagine the city waking, a hum of voices, the rattle of wheels on cobblestone, and the shuffle of people hurrying to market stalls. There, through quiet side streets, apothecaries travel with their tiny companions in tow. Historians still argue whether these snails were primarily pets or portable apothecaries. Some believe these curious creatures were walking talismans, each shell a vessel brimming with potential. Whether clutched in weathered palms or hidden deep in coat pockets, snails provided constant, tactile reminders of nature's bounty and the healer's craft. They were always ready, always prepared to aid in any medicinal brew or impromptu treatment. Remember the bustling lanes lined with merchants selling frankincense, spices, and rare gems. In between these trade treasures, you'd find apothecaries weaving through the crowd, their steps deliberate. Snails, nestled in tiny embroidered pouches, might have felt like bazaar companions to passers-by. Yet they carried wisdom tucked into their spiraling homes. These mollusks were living pharmacies, each secreting the magic of ancient earth, ready to impart their elixirs when called upon. Let's pause at a small fountain square where a young apprentice hurries to meet his mentor. Clutched in his palm is a tiny wicker cage, air holes punched into its sides. Inside, the snail glides forward, shell glistening in the early light. The teacher looks at his student, eyes crinkling as he remembered today's task. With a nod, the apprentice opens the cage, freeing a glistening trail that mixes with dewdrops on the cobblestones. This practice wasn't just ritual, it was precision care. A snail's mucus, kept active by movement, retained its best properties. Even in that brief act, one can see how essential snails were. Apothecaries didn't merely carry them for show. These creatures embodied the synergy between human skill and Earth's natural balance. And while some might snicker at the thought of a healer with a snail for company, the true wisdom lay in understanding these mollusks' unique place in the ancient world of medicine. Imagine now strolling past a bustling tavern. The air fills with the aroma of spiced wine and bread fresh from the oven. Here, at high noon, the apothecary takes a meal with companions. With casual ease, he reaches into his cloak and produces a snail, its presence sparking a mixture of intrigue and knowing nods among the gathered. He relates tales, one of a merchant from Alexandria rescued by snail extract antidote. He pauses, letting the story hang in the thickly scented air. An unlikely hero, right? He chuckles, placing the snail back into its soft, waiting pouch. Historians still argue whether snails earned their place through efficacy or cultural symbolism. The debates rage subtly among ancient texts. Snails mentioned alongside laurel extracts, chamomile infusions, and bee venom salves. Yet, there is no denying that these creatures provided a bridge between the known and the ethereal, whether seen as messengers of health or harbingers of luck. Each snail carried a kernel of truth that many sought to unearth. Let's journey back through those lively marketplaces, now shaded under the late afternoon sun. You stop by a stall brimming with jars and potions, the merchant leaning against the counter with practiced ease. Beside him, an array of snail shells, each labeled, categorized, a testament to this city's deep-rooted wisdom. To him, selling snail essence is no mere transaction. It's tradition wrapped in practicality, for the snails found in apothecaries' pockets weren't just ingredients. They were living links to the practices of olden Constantinople. Recall how, earlier in the day, our apothecary carefully tended to his snails, ensuring they remained well-fed and stress-free. After all, their well-being was directly tied to their efficacy. When you extract mucus from a well-treated snail, it holds different properties richer, more potent. So, as the healer strolls through Constantinople, past grand basilicas and humble dwellings alike, he feels a quiet kinship with these slow-moving travelers, his humble, shelled companions. As the last ray of sun falls through an ancient archway, you find our apothecary once more sitting on a high parapet, contemplating the city. His fingers absently stroke the texture of a nearby shell, and he reflects on the day's patience, remembering their hopeful gazes and whispered prayers. Each tiny snail carried more than mucus. It bore centuries' worth of trust and mystery, healing woven so intricately into its slow-moving path. And in that moment of twilight, as the bustling city finds its rhythm beneath a velvet sky, it's clear that the secrets of Byzantium extend far beyond its crumbling walls. Snails, once carried so casually in pockets, become living histories, each tiny trail echoing the wisdom of healers gone by. guiding new generations toward the potent miracles hidden in nature's humblest of creatures. As the stars begin their quiet watch over Constantinople, the city slows its breath, the day's activities giving way to contemplation and whispers. Here, by the high parapets of ancient stone, you sit with the apothecary, a silent guardian of old knowledge. The night breeze is cool, carrying hints of jasmine, reminders of the city's layered essence. Snails, in their cozy nooks, dream the dreams of creatures unburdened by haste. Historians still argue whether the practice of carrying snails emerged from necessity or superstition. Some argue they were the ultimate survival tool, a steady source of potent mucus for immediate aid. Others whisper of ancient beliefs, snails as bearers of life's primordial secrets, guardians against malevolent spirits. In the apothecary's careful fingers, each shell is a book of lore, each creature a story waiting to be unfurled. You're taken back to a cobblestone street, illuminated by lantern glow. Apothecaries meander, each clutching their small living repositories of ancient wisdom. Their snails, nestled in embroidered pouches, might seem like eccentric ornaments to the uninitiated. But to those who understand, each glistening trail on the stone is a testament to the balance of nature and need, a dance of the tangible and the ethereal. Recall the scene of a healer by a fountain, his apprentice holding a snail, ready for today's lesson. The snail's trail sparkles in the half-light of dawn, each movement an affirmation of readiness, proof of a well-tended companion. It's more than a routine, it's a ritual, ensuring the mucus remains potent, the promise of its efficacy unbroken. Let's pause to imagine the hushed tones in taverns where healers gather. A snail appearing from a cloak elicits nods and murmurs. Tales exchanged of how an Alexandrian merchant once revived using snail extracts. These small heroes, unassuming in their presence, held stories heavy with life and hope, stories shared between sips of spiced wine. The healer's chuckle lingers in the air like the fading scent of a dying flame. Historians still argue whether the medicinal or mystical facets held more weight. Did the apothecaries cling to the snails for their tangible benefits or their enigmatic allure? In ancient manuscripts, snails are catalogued alongside laurel, chamomile, and honeyed promises. Yet, their mention hints at a deeper narrative of nature's riddles, of trust woven into spiraled shells. Back through marketplaces, now swathed in dusky shadows, stalls stand adorned with jars and vials. A merchant waits, each snail shell in its place, treasures from the sea's depths and the earth's embrace. To sell snail essence is to sell a piece of the ancient city's heart, an offering both practical and profound. Reflect on the apothecary's journey, past towering basilicas, and under the arches of wisdom held by olden scholars. His snails were not mere passengers, but partners in healing, each soft-bodied creature playing its part in Byzantium's medicinal symphony. When their care was good, their gifts in mucus were richer, more potent, a reminder of the balance needed between healer and healed, nature and human will. Here, by the parapet's edge, under a sky pricked with stars, the city breathes softer. Our apothecary, with Snails resting in his pocket, contemplates eyes full of hope, voices soft with prayer. Each shell carries more than memory. It carries trust, the essence of a world seeking balance, of hands reaching through the fog of illness toward the steady light of old wisdom. In this twilight hour, where the boundaries of history fade and stories merge, Snails once again become the living chronicles of a city's enduring legacy. Their trails echo with voices of healers gone by, a soft hum beneath the stars, guiding the search for the world's hidden miracles tucked within its simplest wonders. You linger at the parapet's edge, the night wrapping you in a shroud of contemplation. The apothecary's fingers dance lightly over a snail's shell, a quiet exchange that is less a secret than a communion. Here, in the heart of Byzantine Constantinople, you see the city's pulse slows to the rhythm of its wisdom, its breaths measured by the cadences of ancient scripts. Every twist and turn of an old manuscript, every line drawn in sand or inked on parchment, led to this, the perfect blend of remedies born from simple snails. One can hardly walk the marble halls of the great palace without noticing the subtle alchemy in the air. Snail essence, mixed with olive oil perhaps, carried healing whispers through breezes stirred by gossiping courtiers. They believed in what lay beneath, a formula that nature provided, right from the slimy trails left in courtyards. Experts think these tiny mollusks secreted the magic needed for everything from poultices for wounds to salves for inflamed eyes, a belief that was passed on. One murmured lesson to young healers. In a less traveled lane, you find the market's back alleys, the stalls piled high with jars, each one a puzzle of possibility. Here, where the world's merchants gather, snails from across the realms are displayed by candlelight. Imagine how a trader might unwrap a snail, pull out its essence, hold it aloft for the crowd, a potion for longevity, they claimed, distilled in the spirals of a small shell. It wasn't just the allure of the unknown that drew them. It was the promise of a remedy held tight by tradition. Historians still argue whether these claims were mere myth or truth hiding in plain sight. On nights like this, apothecaries would convene under flickering torches. A healer would share tales of a special balm, a fusion of chamomile, honey, and snail slime. It was famed for softening skin, mending cracks, and bringing calm to fevered brows. One tale told of a royal who slept soundly for the first time in moons, after a snail-infused elixir traced its way through his veins. Others murmured of the old recipe books, where snail's essence stood proudly alongside rose petals, and meant each ingredient a guardian of health, each potion a prayer. Back through the narrow streets, under the watch of ancient towers, you hear the evening prayers beginning. Byzantine practices weren't just clinical. Each ingredient, each mix, carried meaning. The snail, this tiny creature, was revered for more than just mucus. It held a symbol of resilience, a traveler of earth on its quest. People spoke of a time when snails predicted weather, their movements marking seasons for farmers. Whether they could do so was widely debated, but in a land of signs and omens, the belief was strong. In the gentlest of lights, apothecaries crafted formulas more exquisite than silks in any bazaar. They were both healer and alchemist, their creations potent with history. And amid their most cherished ingredients stood the humble snail. You see a glimpse of their notebooks, pages smudged with notes about the perfect conditions for snail care, the right mix of soil and leaf for their beds. In one weathered volume, the margin note reveals a chuckle from an apothecary. The best mucus comes from the happiest snails. As the city's lights dim, you leave the parapet, tracing shadows along the cobblestones of Hagia Sophia's steps. Constantinople whispers secrets of its past, the old and new meld in harmony. Each snail, each carefully measured drop of essence, bridges the ancient wisdom and present needs. As stories blend with breath and night settles, you understand healing wasn't just science here. It was art, a melody of the land, sung through the ages, one tiny shell at a time. Back at the apothecary's humble stall, nestled behind a tapestry of ancient lore, more jars gleam, each one filled with snails, coiled in sleep. They are more than ingredients, they are companions, the quiet bearers of tradition. You peer into a jar, catching the glint of moonlight on a shell, a promise from Byzantium's heart, an echo of resilience and wisdom held together by the simplest creatures. Masters of healing herbs combined their skills with nature's offerings, a harmony of plant and mollusk. In the labyrinth of Constantinople's medicine shops, an unspoken reverence for the snail existed. Here, amid the scent of drying leaves and resins, apothecaries mixed concoctions under the watchful eyes of mentors. They learned that not every herb required the alchemist's precise touch. Some simply needed nature's own blend, snail essence, complementing botanical wisdom. You find yourself watching a seasoned healer. Her deft hands combine chamomile and lavender, known for soothing restless souls and tender skin. But in this recipe, she introduces a surprise: crushed snail shells. It's the calcium, she whispers, that binds the ointment's strength. It seems almost mundane, but imagine explaining this blend to a modern skeptic. The olden formula books show us pages filled with remedies that blend herbs with snail secretions. Experts argue about the true healing power of this mix. Did the snails play a magical role, or were they simply another ingredient? Historians still argue whether the belief in snails was purely superstition or profound knowledge lost in translation. Step into one of their small workshops and observe clay pots bubbling gently, herbal infusions thick with thyme and honey, await the final touch. That's where the snail, both shell and slime, comes in. One master healer reputedly could cure rashes with a mere touch of this blend to the skin. The mollusk's contribution wasn't just folklore. There was something in its essence that transformed the ordinary herbal poultices into extraordinary potions. Legends tell of a famed courtier who could only sleep when his silk pillows were imbued with just the right scent and snail-touched remedy. In backstreet corners, you find jars of desiccated herbs, lavender, rosemary, each carefully labeled. Imagine your own stash, only enriched by the secret spiral of snail powder, turning mere sleep aids into restorative miracles. Byzantine alchemists believed snails held an extra, elusive quality that other creatures simply couldn't offer. They spoke of snails as the bridge between the earth's minerals and the green's vitality, a blend that could even elevate the humblest potion. Some quirky texts even mention snails in love charms, the idea being that these slow, deliberate creatures could bring harmony to turbulent passions. Who knew how much of that was romantic fancy versus real-life remedy? Regardless, these mixtures became part of a larger cultural tapestry where snails weren't just medicinal companions, but mystical allies. Each morning, you might catch an apprentice carefully scraping snail shells to mix with honeyed elderflower, all to soothe a fever's burn. As they worked, tales of olden times echoed through the stone walls. The way snails could be crushed, not just for calcium, but for those mystical properties still open for debate. The alchemy in those herbs, enhanced by snail, carried more than mere science. It had the weight of stories, of centuries. Historians still argue whether the reverence for snails was superstition or early biochemistry. But remember this: a remedy's power lies not only in the ingredients, but in the belief behind the mix. Each blend was a ritual as much as a recipe, a tradition passed down from those who saw the mollusk as something more than a backyard critter. In a city where emperors and alchemists brushed shoulders, you carry this wisdom. The magic isn't just in what they made, but in how they believed. As you step from the apothecary's dim space into the sun-dappled streets, you carry the knowledge that in a time of emperors and scholars, it was the simplest creatures that bridged worlds, blending herbal magic with slow-moving wisdom. In jars, in salves, and in sleep, the snails of Byzantium whispered their secrets, tiny echoes of an age when nature and miracle walked hand in hand. Scholars mixed practice and belief. Nature met magic in a dance as old as the empire itself. Under the watchful gaze of Constantinople's mighty walls, the Byzantine alchemist held more than medicinal knowledge. Theirs was a realm where science curled amid the spirals of centuries-old wisdom, every snail shell carrying echoes of an ancient world. Imagine walking through those same stone-cobbled streets. You glimpse an apothecary, their workspace cluttered with jars and bubbling elixirs, where snails crawl calmly across worn tables. To you, perhaps, they're mundane. But in this corner of olden Byzantium, they serve roles far greater than unassuming mollusks. Historians often debate whether this reverence for snails marked the height of biological insight or merely the fringes of myth-bound superstition. Picture ancient apothecaries crafting remedies, but not just any concoction. They were alchemists of a world where the medicinal arts danced on the knife's edge of magic. Experts think that snails, with their slow grace, were believed to channel energies that herbs alone could never capture. Some fringe scrolls speak of a time when apothecaries used snails to predict the outcomes of their mixes, claiming the creature's movements hinted at hidden forces. In a cluttered nook, a healer's apprentice painstakingly notes every detail. The amount of lavender in each batch, the precise moment to add rosemary infused with snail powder. Here, the snail was part of something more profound, an olden secret that wove together the threads of natural and supernatural alike. Each remedy, a symphony where snail essence wasn't just a note, but a chord, resonating deep into the apothecary's soul. You find an account from an herbalist of the time, speaking of their snail-touched remedies in ways that modern ears might smirk at. Yet some truths linger even in the quirky margins of history. Take, for instance, the idea that snail slime could heal wounds and calm inflamed hearts, a concept that stretches from folk tale to factual record. It's not just in fairy stories. There's evidence that these tiny creatures packed a potent punch. Some whispered theories hint that these snail ingredients carried a deeper significance, one that merged healing with ancient symbolism. Remember that time the Empress was said to have worn snail poulticed wraps for both complexion and protection. In Byzantium, the lines between therapy and magic remained tantalizingly blurred, offering modern scholars ample fodder for their debates. In your mind, stroll to a backroom workshop where jars hold the alchemy of the empire, an arsenal of wisdom, now lost, yet tantalizingly accessible through relics and records. Picture Byzantine healers murmuring charms over jars of snail-infused salves and ointments. Experts argue whether the snails themselves were considered messengers from the divine, or just highly effective, slow-moving ingredients. Step further back in time as apothecaries trudge through marketplaces, collecting snails right alongside the herbs and minerals that built their trades. Their choices and combinations echo with tales of the unexpected wisdom in simplicity. Each day, their practices were as much a testament to belief and lore as they were to empirical science. That balance of the olden ways, slow-moving snails, and the vibrant herbs remains a rich tapestry of Byzantine healing. Historians still argue whether that snail essence was a miracle in itself, or the placebo effect dressed in botanical science. But here's a fact. Snails do secrete compounds known even now to have medicinal properties. Perhaps their true power lay in the stories attached, the blend of fact and fancy that turned snail essences into miraculous marvels. As you trace these stories through history's shadows, one truth emerges: that snail wasn't just a tool, but a talisman. In the alchemist's capable hands, every spiral, every touch, whispered with the promise of healing. Snails meandered from gardens into the annals of medicinal lore, their role far more mysterious and magical than we ever truly understood. Let that realization simmer as you step into the light, where the scent of ancient practices mingles with the sunlit streets. From remedy-laden jars to snail-infused wraps, their wisdom bridges time, echoing through whispers of Constantinople's past. Every snail shell, a portal; every crushed essence, a story that still beckons us from those old, bustling days. So, walk those labyrinthine alleys with a new awareness, not just as paths trodden by feet, but as trails paved with the mysterious magic of alchemy and snail alike. Each turn and twist, a reminder that in the heart of Byzantium, nature met purpose with a delicate touch and a spiraling dance, leaving us stories not only of olden remedies, but of the beliefs that brought them to life. You see, in the heart of everyday Byzantine life, strange habits held deeper meanings than mere practicality. The alchemists, with their snail-laden pockets and whispered remedies, navigated their worlds guided by a tapestry woven from centuries-old practices. Their snail companions weren't just medicinal tools. Each tiny mollusk was a symbol, a living embodiment of the empire's deep-rooted traditions. Imagine this: an apprentice glancing nervously as they enter a bustling marketplace. Their mentor, a respected healer, carefully selects snails from terracotta pots, inspecting each with practiced ease. To an untrained eye, the scene might seem ordinary, but for those in the know, every chosen snail carried layers of meaning. Experts think snails were believed to symbolize resilience, a quality highly valued in the Byzantine Empire. Their ability to weather storms and thrive in adversity made them apt metaphors for life in Constantinople itself. Resilient, intricate, and deeply rooted in both science and mysticism. Some even joked about the slow-paced wisdom that snails imparted, saying that their deliberate pace was a reminder to savor every aspect of the healing art. Historians still argue whether snails were seen merely as ingredients, or if they held a more mystical significance. Some fringe accounts speak of snails being placed near household beds to ward off nightmares, their presence believed to bring soothing dreams and restful slumber. Meanwhile, it's a matter of historical record that snail mucin was actually used in ancient times, not just in medicines, but also in beauty treatments for skin ailments. Recall that time a Byzantine noblewoman was found encased in snail essence unguents. Both her beauty treatment and her purported armor against the ravages of old age. You might chuckle at the idea, but remember, what we dismiss as folly today could very well have been the cornerstone of yesterday's advanced practices. Now, picture a healer's workshop, cluttered with scrolls, jars, and snail-secreted elixirs. Each snail, every time they were pulled from a pocket or a dusty vase, reinforced the connection between practitioner and practice. The apothecary's gestures, slow and deliberate, mirrored the snail's own measured pace, embedding rituals in each healing action. They believed these small creatures could unlock a grander, almost otherworldly realm of medical possibilities. So next time you find yourself scoffing at an old wives' tale, take a moment to consider the depths of those traditions. To the Byzantine alchemist, snails weren't just medicinal tools. They were a thread in the rich tapestry of life, symbolizing health, resilience, and even a touch of magic. It's not just about the science or the superstition. It's about how they intertwined to form a vibrant, living practice that shaped an entire culture's view on healing. Reflect on this. Every shell carried, every potion crafted contained more than ingredients. They contained beliefs, stories, and snippets of daily life in a world both alien and familiar. From the snail's slimed trail to the emperor's health, these tiny beings left their mark on the most unexpected corners of Byzantine life. And perhaps that, more than any formula or potion, is the real legacy, one that whispers still from the annals of history, waiting for us to really listen. Byzantine apothecaries weren't just stationary alchemists. They traveled, their journeys mirroring the empire's intricate trade routes. Their destinations ranged from bustling ports to remote villages, carrying their essential tools in every stride, including those ever-present snails. Each expedition was a blend of necessity and ritual, embodying the dynamic life of a Byzantine healer. Image this: an apothecary hiking narrow mountain paths, their satchel lightly clinking with snail-filled vials. Why such diligence? Perhaps they believed snails, with their slow resilience, could bring stability and calm to even the most unpredictable journeys. Think of a wandering healer pausing in a forest clearing, opening their pouch not just for medicinal ingredients, but to reconnect with age-old practices, each snail a touchstone to their roots. You may recall how those snails weren't just for making potions. They were living symbols of endurance. For a healer trudging through varying terrains, the snail was a constant. Its slow, deliberate pace was a reminder to remain focused, no matter the obstacles. Some whispered it was good luck to carry a snail while traveling, a belief that surely brought comfort during perilous crossings and uncertain nights. Historians still argue whether apothecaries chose snails for their symbolic weight or strictly for medicinal value. One playful anecdote suggests some might carried snails solely to annoy younger apprentices who were less fond of the mollusks. Yet there's more than whimsy here. These creatures played pivotal roles. Records mention apothecaries using snail mucin to treat everything from minor cuts to severe inflammations while on the move, reinforcing their reliance on these humble companions. Let's transport ourselves to a coastal harbor where the salty air mingles with the earthy scent of medicinal herbs. Here, an apothecary waits for a ship to distant lands. Their satchel is carefully packed with remedies, and of course, snails. The belief that snails could harmonize with different climates, ascribing them almost magical adaptive qualities, provided solace before embarking on long, uncertain voyages. Snails were part of everyday rituals, but on journeys, their significance layered into folklore too. Some healers swore that placing snails near sleeping quarters during travel brought restorative rest, an ancient precursor to your modern-day sleep app. And while that notion might raise a modern eyebrow, it illustrates how snails bridged the physical and metaphysical in a healer's kit. Think about the time an apothecary saved an entire caravan, attributing the healing properties of their snail-infused concoctions to not just science, but to the creature's inherent spirit. It's easy for us to dismiss this combination of mysticism and medicine with a chuckle. But for them, every remedy was rooted in a world where such overlaps defined reality. They were not just traveling healers, but carriers of cultural wisdom, weaving practicalities with belief. In every snail carried, every potion crafted on the road, lay more than mere ingredients. They held a piece of their world, one where snails symbolized stability, endurance, and perhaps a touch of the otherworldly. Each journey reinforced their practice's values, turning those tiny mollusks into far more than mere tools. They became emblems of the Byzantine healing art itself. Perhaps the real marvel isn't just the historical blend of science and superstition, but how these elements together created a living, breathing practice. From urban markets to high mountain trails, Byzantine apothecaries carried their snail companions, etching their culture's wisdom into each step they took. And in that intertwining of movement and method, we glimpse the profound narrative of a civilization's lasting legacy. Byzantine apothecaries didn't simply pack their snails as an afterthought. No, they treated these small beings with meticulous care. Each snail selected was subject to rigorous conditions. Those that moved sluggishly were left behind. The ideal travelers were the fast ones, symbolizing vitality and vigor, who knew snails could be so discerning in their choice of adventurers. So, imagine a healer pausing outside their apothecary, carefully picking each snail from a terracotta dish. These were their trusted companions. After all, perhaps they believed speedier snails carried more potent qualities, a quirky secret known only to seasoned apothecaries. Historians still argue whether these beliefs stemmed from practicality or whimsy, a playful yet serious debate. Those snails served myriad purposes beyond medicine. In bustling markets, they were often used as barter, traded for rare herbs from the furthest corners of the empire. Picture this, a healer in the port city of Trebizond, exchanging a dozen prime snails for a pouch of exotic spices. The mollusks had become a unique currency of their own. And let's talk snail grooming. Yes, indeed, you read that right. Byzantine healers groomed their snails, ensuring their shells were polished and unmarked. It was an odd blend of vanity and necessity. Spotless snails were believed to be more effective. Perhaps our healers were onto something. Clean shells could signify the purity of the apothecary's intentions. When night fell, those snails played another role. An apothecary might place them by their sleeping quarters, a nod to old traditions that snails emitted sleep-inducing pheromones. Sleep experts today might scoff, yet this belief was once an essential part of their nightly routine. Such practices reinforced the deeper bond between travelers and their slippery friends. Each path, each winding road, was interwoven with these little creatures. You can envision them in rocky terrains. The apothecary pausing by a bubbling brook, refilling the snails' temporary homes with fresh water, murmuring incantations meant to invigorate their journeys. Whether in forest depths or sun-drenched fields, they adapted seamlessly to the shifting backdrops. Some apothecaries kept journals, recording their snail encounters and medicinal uses. Historian notes from these journals reveal snippets about snail behaviors during different weather patterns. They meticulously listed the best practices for nurturing snails, noting that rain brought them out of their shells quite happily, but a dry spell made them sluggish. This symbiosis was critical. A Byzantine healer could find a willing snail shell in any climate they encountered. But was it all science? Or was there more magic? Apothecaries believed that snails, being survivors of ancient epochs, carried wisdom from their ancestors. That wisdom, distilled into viscous snail mucin, could heal not just the skin, but the soul. There's humor in our reflection, but beneath it lies a truth about their reverence. Historians still debate the extent of snails' ritualistic roles versus their practical uses, but perhaps this was a deliberate blur, a blend that empowered both the healer and the healed. They were not just travelers with remedies. They carried worlds within them, each snail a living memory of a civilization where nature and spirit waltzed in perfect harmony. Even in their simplest moments, these apothecaries were never alone. Each mountain climbed, desert crossed, or forest navigated became a stage for their ever-present, ever-resilient snail companions. And as they navigated, the empire's vast wisdom etched itself deeper into every journey undertaken, every night sky witnessed, and every tiny, wet footprint left behind. Trade in the Byzantine Empire was a tapestry of goods crisscrossing land, and see, each route told 1,000 stories. Imagine merchants weaving through crowded marketplaces, their caravans laden with exotic wares, and of course, snails. These merchants weren't just traders. They were the lifeblood of commerce, moving precious cargo between empires. Apothecaries relied on these merchants for their rare ingredients herbs from Asia, minerals from the deserts. And yes, those snails traded from distant coastal regions. Snails became prized items, often exchanged for spices like saffron or even delicate silks. This trade wasn't just economic, it was a cultural exchange. Each snail carried whispers of ancient wisdom and practical knowledge about medicinal uses. Every journey was a gamble with time. Merchant ships sailed through treacherous waters, braving storms and piracy. These long, risky voyages ensured that the snails arriving in the capital were considered even more potent. Experts believe that the stress from the journey could somehow enhance their supposed healing properties. The Silk Road was bustling, with merchants bearing snail-filled vials, their precious cargo protected in clay or leather containers. Some snails might have traveled alongside bolts of silk and glassware from Alexandria. Just envision a Byzantine merchant arguing the value of snails, holding up a perfect shell like a rare gem while bargaining fiercely. Each stop along these routes meant another chance for snails to be exchanged, studied, and revered in new lands. Apothecaries in Constantinople awaited these caravans, eyes glinting with anticipation. After all, a fresh supply meant more potent remedies for an emperor, or a secret salve for a lover's quarrel. Snails promised solutions. There was a peculiar, lesser-known practice involving snail trade, using them as payment for oracles. When seeking guidance, some Byzantines believed only a snail could unlock the seer's full power. This odd belief held snails in high regard, beyond their mere medicinal purposes. Meanwhile, historians still argue whether trading snails was grounded in necessity or superstition. Did traders genuinely believe that snails were essential commodities, or were these mollusks pawns in a more mystical game? The dual belief systems created an atmosphere where logic and folklore danced together. When night fell by the docks, merchants would set their snails into makeshift gardens, tiny, damp enclosures where they could rest between stops. You can picture them, lanterns glowing beside stacks of crates, their shadows flickering against the ship's masts. Here, the snail's fate intertwined with the empire's, each creature's journey mirroring the trader's adventures across continents and cultures. These snails traversed paths where countless stories unfolded. They saw empires rise and fall, wars waged and won. As apothecaries relied on the merchants' bravery, so too did the empire rely on the snails' quiet, slimy wisdom. Each snail, transported with care, symbolized the Byzantines' profound connection with both commerce and the natural world. The intricate dance of exchange, snail for spice, silk for wisdom, didn't just enrich the apothecaries. It wove the empire's fate into the fabric of its daily life. Trading mollusks across vast oceans became more than a practice. It was a tradition, a rhythm within the empire's greater heartbeat. Every snail was a testament to their resilience, navigating uncharted waters just as the travelers carried them far from home, as apothecaries relied on this trade. The Byzantine Empire's essence echoed across the Mediterranean. Every Snail's journey a narrative thread, intertwining commerce, medicine, and mystery, merchants and healers, through their shared endeavors, carved their legacy within the empire's storied walls. And so, every snail carried with it whispers of ancient cities, tales of brave adventurers, and the wisdom of ages past, forging a living tapestry of trade, treatment, and timelessness. The slow, persistent journey of those snails didn't just affect Byzantine markets and medical practices. They also left their mark on therapeutic approaches. Picture yourself in a sun-dappled herb garden behind an ancient apothecary's workshop. The day's warmth envelops you, a gentle breeze carrying the musky, green scent of living remedies. You might hear the occasional soft clink of glass vials, or a mortar and pestle being lovingly worked. Time's pace seems different here, as apothecaries carefully blended their ingredients. Snails were the secret ingredient in many preparations. Their mucus wasn't just slimy. It was believed to hold properties that could regenerate skin and repair tissues. Imagine you're gently crushing herbs with a slow, measured rhythm, your movements blending ancient knowledge with the whisper of possibility. With each pass, you're invoking centuries of medical wisdom. But why snails, you might wonder? Historians claim that snails, with their slow, steady ways, mirrored the patient healing processes of Byzantine medicine. You can envision a healer's steady hands extracting a snail from their pocket, their face lit with a sense of purpose. The mollusk's journey from far-off lands, through merchant ships and crowded bazaars, made it part of an intricately woven medical tapestry. One intriguing yet commonly known fringe use of snail mucus was its application in treating skin conditions like burns, wounds, and even eczema. The slow, cool glide of snail slime over sunburned skin, providing a layer of soothing coolness, almost magical in its relief. You can feel the delicate tension ease away with each gentle application, ancient knowledge merging with your personal relief. Then comes the quirky tidbit of Snail's trail ointment, which was reputed to reduce wrinkles and rejuvenate aging skin. Fancy a wealthy Constantinopolitan noble, whispering into their reflection, promising renewal with each slimy application. It's tempting to imagine highborns furtively rubbing snail goo beneath powdered wigs, their secret rituals blending vanity with therapeutic wisdom. Remember the crocus fields we visited last spring? Those violet and gold fields were as vital to the Byzantine aesthetic as snails were to their healing arts. Apothecaries' workshops were filled with the heady scent of saffron, another luxurious trade commodity, blending perfumery and medicine. Just envision the saffron and snail extracts simmering together on low flames, merging fragrance with healing. But debate swirls around snail usage. Historians still argue whether snails were embraced for their supposed medicinal properties or their mystical associations. Could it be that the mollusks carried whispers of both? Perhaps, for the average Byzantine apothecary, the distinctions weren't as clear as they seem to us today. Their approach interwove practicality with tradition, much as they braided herbs into daily treatments, blending logic and lore into their care. Apothecaries were not just dispensers of remedies, they were keepers of cultural narratives. Snail trade routes, bustling with life and commerce, wound through bustling cities and quiet countrysides, a reminder of how nature and humanity's healing quests are bound together. Picture travelers exchanging tailies, snail lore becoming part of a shared medical and cultural heritage, as merchants unwound their caravans for the night. Each snail-laden vial was like a small, living testament to Byzantine resourcefulness, the same ingenuity that let them hold their empire against the tides for over a millennium. Those snail remedies, crafted and recrafted through generations, connected them to the world beyond, shaping an identity still studied under modern lights. Just imagine historians piecing together these practices, each snail-touched remedy a clue, unraveling the empire's medical mysteries. As you step between the shadows and sunlight, you can almost hear the soft shuffle of mollusks across ancient maps. That slow, deliberate rhythm underscores a deeper understanding of healing. How trade crafted not just cures, but stories. Every snail used was both treatment and tale. Their legacy woven into the fabric of Byzantium's daily life. A testimony to how the ancients combined the seen, the unseen, and the slowly understood in their pursuit of wellness. You might think the connection between mollusks and medical miracles started in Byzantium, but snail's healing reputation stretches back even further to ancient Egypt. Picture towering pyramids glinting under the desert sun, where apothecaries long before your Byzantine healers revered snails for similar mysterious properties. The Egyptians believed these slow-moving creatures held secrets from nature's own alchemists, perhaps hinting at the origins of Byzantine snail lore. As merchants traded along the Silk Road and beyond, they carried more than spices and silks. Small clay jars filled with snail essence might jostle in a caravan's saddlebag, a precious cargo making its circuitous way to Byzantine hands. Historians still argue whether snails were initially treasured for their mystical connotations or their practical medical benefits. Either way, imagine wealthy Byzantine nobles eagerly accepting snail elixirs, believing they brought them a touch of ancient Egyptian wisdom. Those snail-laden shipments weren't just about medicine, though. Some ancient texts hint at snails being symbolic talismans, bringing the luck and longevity whispered about in marketplaces and courtly chambers. Envision markets brimming with the chatter of barter and intrigue, a hidden language where each item, even a slimy trail, told a story steeped in more than mere commerce. Here's a quirky detour. Apothecaries sometimes prepared snail-infused inks to write down their treasured recipes. Picture an old healer, bent over parchment, illuminated only by flickering candlelight, the ink leaving its own medicinal signature. The thought of a secret concoction penned in snail ink adds a twist, almost like these potions could think and move as cunningly as their creators. Faraway empires across deserts and oceans also valued snails. In Rome, snail broth was believed to cure pleurisy. Byzantine apothecaries, always looking for validation of their practices, might have read about that and whispered, the Romans knew something. These practices meandered through networks like rivers across continents, winding into Byzantium as a trickle of inherited wisdom. Some historians suggest Byzantine snail treatments even crossed paths with Chinese remedies. Snails in Chinese medicine were esteemed for promoting longevity and vitality. Imagine that cross-cultural exchange. A Byzantine healer, upon hearing of such esteemed uses, would nod in quiet recognition, perhaps with a small gleam of triumph. After all, snail secrets were valued far and wide. Every snail carried a piece of the world as it glided into Byzantium's grasp, each shell a living relic from empires past. These creatures bore echoes of their journey from pyramids to palaces, each slow step a testament to ancients' reverence for nature's wisdom. The snail remedies you find today are just whispers of a broader world map stitched together by patient travelers and curious healers. In your quiet moments, think back to the last time you saw a snail's tiny journey across your garden. It's a slow, ancient wisdom moving still, a connection to all those careful hands from faraway deserts and grand cities. Each mucus trail, a bridge to how empires once sought the secrets to healing, merging the ancient and contemporary within a single, graceful glide. Imagine tracing back every path those tiny feet ever took, each one a chapter from a shared history of hope. You slide back into that image of the snail's journey, each gliding footstep whispering through time. The secret lies in their anatomy. Picture a Byzantine apothecary carefully studying these mollusks, each segment revealing its potential. The Romans once marveled at snails' regenerative properties, and perhaps your healer nods in agreement, knowing these creatures healed themselves. Experts think the slime might have been their prized essence, rich in proteins and antibiotics. Hold on to the idea of these snails' intricate bodies. Visualize the foot with its rippling motion, secreting that special mucus, and the mantle, a hidden compartment of alchemical wonders. These creatures seemed like self-contained pharmacies. Historians still argue whether apothecaries valued the snail's slime or the minerals from their crushed shells. Every part mattered. Snail shells were believed to be conduits of protective energy. Remember those small talismans tucked in pockets. Some healers swore the shell's spiral mirrored the cosmos itself, an olden emblem of life's regeneration. Byzantine alchemists likely studied them under candlelight, pondering each whorl and ridge as though reading a map to eternity. But let's pivot to a quirkier notion. In tiny villages scattered through the empire, snails might have been more than medicine, small fortunes, perhaps. Farmers and scholars alike watched their movements or counted antenna flickers, convinced these slimy oracles could predict the weather. One more layer, one more reason to carry them along your journey. Let's journey into the practicality of snail anatomy. The mucus, with its delicate sheen, was thought to mend skin, reduce wrinkles, and even speed healing. Picture court physicians concocting creams. One healer, whispering the recipe to his apprentice, might said, "You see, it's not just the snail, every touch, every element matters." Imagine the debate over potency, too. Fresh mucus or older, dried essence. These discussions might rival any theological debate in Constantinople. A healer might lean closer to you across a table, cluttered with mortar and pestle, whispering secrets that bridge the scientific and the symbolic. Historians still argue whether the shell's calcium contributed to its efficacy. In Byzantium, this mixture of alchemical belief and practical application thrived. The very essence of these snails, their mucus paths, could symbolize life's slow and steady renewal, a journey mirroring an empire's quest for immortality. Each tiny body, a universe unto itself, carried wisdom, both olden and emergent. Byzantine healers, perhaps, saw the snail not just as a creature, but as a living lesson in persistence and resilience. After all, the Byzantines mastered survival techniques, too. They knew that from even the smallest being, vast healing could emerge. And while you ponder that, think about touching a snail's soft, yielding trail. Each secretion leaves more than just a slippery trail. It reveals a chapter of human history. Across marketplaces and palaces, this creature held the mystery of nature and life, a fitting emblem of an empire driven by both mysticism and hard-won truths. In these tiny creatures' anatomy, Byzantium saw a reflection of the world's wonder and the healing power that could bridge centuries. Their wisdom was etched not just in ink or herbology, but in the simple elegance of a snail's structure, where survival and healing met with cosmic significance. So next time you feel the tug of history in modern skincare, know this all started with a snail carefully observed, its anatomy studied under flickering candlelight, promising life's continuity woven through time. Byzantine apothecaries found the universe in a shell. Your world might too, if you listen closely enough to that slim, graceful glide across your modern reality. Their wisdom was etched not just in ink or herbology, but in the simple elegance of a snail's structure, where survival and healing met with cosmic significance. So imagine a Byzantine apothecary, one skilled in the art of transformation. These mollusks are his living ingredients, each body a trove of potential remedies. First, they extract the slime. Think of those viscous trails snaking through garden paths, but rather than just skin cream, In Byzantine hands, it becomes an elixir of sorts. This mucus, rich in allantoin and collagen, would soothe irritation, encourage cell regeneration, and act as a natural antibiotic. Historians still argue whether they fully understood these properties or relied more on folklore. Yet, the versatility was undeniable. It wasn't merely a single-use wonder. The same mucus that healed skin wounds might also seep onto parchment to bind inks. That's right, the written word of scholars might have come to life, sealed with snail secretions. Now, let's peel back to the apothecary's lab, where the snail's manifold uses reveal their practical magic. Crushed shell powder adds calcium to tonics, believed to strengthen bones and ease joint ailments. Byzantine healers often grounded their remedies in a blend of observation and ritual, every part of the snail serving a purpose. Even the creature's tiny heart, when dried and powdered, found itself in potions designed to invigorate the blood. Quirk alert. Did you know in some regions, apothecaries ground snail shells mixed with honey for a unique sweet treat, a candy infused with health benefits? Perhaps. Who knew ancient nutritionists had a flair for the bizarre? These tiny miracles could transition from remedy to refreshment seamlessly. Historians still argue whether snail shell candies were ever a regular part of healers' diets or a one-off whim. Some say it was reserved for festivals. Others insist it was an everyday snack among alchemists. Regardless, each preparation method speaks to the ingenuity baked into snail use across various Byzantine applications. The mantle, you see, isn't just for secreting mucus. It was also believed to possess purifying properties in alchemical texts. Envision a healer placing the mantle extract into a cauldron, its aroma mingling with herbs, creating smoke for rituals meant to clear negative energies. This was snail essence, weaving through physical and spiritual realms alike. And let's not forget the apothecaries' more practical uses. Those humble snails offered ways to manage common ailments, respiratory issues. Inhaling the vapor of boiled snails was thought to clear nasal passages and ease congestion. We can imagine a crowded marketplace stall, patients lined up for a whiff of snail broth therapy. Even their eggs played a part, tiny though they were. Some remedies involved crushed eggs to help stop bleeding or aid in coagulation during minor surgeries. Remember how intricate Byzantine surgical methods already were, so their integration shows a fascinating depth of application. Picture an aged healer whispering secrets passed down through generations. She reveals how each part of the snail weaves through their medicinal tapestry: skin treatments, tonics, rituals, and more. This small mollusk bridged everyday health with mystical practice, embodying an empire's blend of pragmatism and wonder. Debates continue around their precise uses. Historians sift through records, questioning the extent of each anatomical part's integration into daily life. Yet, one thing remains clear. The snail's entire structure carried layers of potential Byzantium harnessed skillfully. As you wander through this mollusk's myriad uses, notice how intertwined they remained with the empire's fabric, a small creature, yet potent in both symbolism and practice. Whether nourishing parchment or healing bodies, snails found their place at the heart of Byzantine ingenuity, each element repurposed to touch lives in unexpected, enduring ways. Their legacy, you see, stretches through centuries, leaving slim trails across history's page. Generations passed down secrets about this unassuming, silent traveler, a creature tucked within the folds of Byzantium's bustling apothecaries. Think about it, snails. Those garden snails. You remember them, right? Sliding through underbrush, leaving silver trails behind, humble yet extraordinary. They weren't just a quick snack for some, but held vast medicinal legacies, ones that crossed from ancient Egypt into Constantinople's cobblestone streets. Why would something so slow carry such revered status? Well, consider their anatomy. Those slime trails contained collagen. Yes, the same collagen we obsess over today in our anti-aging skincare. It's fascinating how something so modern was harnessed centuries ago. Picture apothecaries carefully extracting that slime, their hands steady, not on the delicate trails, but rather on the essence within. They knew that each drop held potential, each glistening thread a pathway to healing. But it goes beyond skincare. These mollusks carried symbolic power too. Historians still argue whether snails were considered divine messengers or mere medicinal miracles. Some texts found in olden monasteries suggest that they were. Imagine that, gastropods bearing blessings. These creatures were perhaps an omen, as much as they were an ointment, bridging the gap between the mystical and the measurable. Now, let's dive into the quirky corner. Some apothecaries took these snails and incorporated them into tonics designed to enhance memory. The lore suggests that ingesting snail mucus could improve cognition. Sounds bizarre, right? Yet we've seen stranger trends resurface. Think crocodile dung sunscreen. Historians chuckle at such fringe ideas. Yet, in truth, some modern studies hint at unexpected properties, even in the most peculiar concoctions. Byzantine healers wove stories around these snails. Each generation of alchemists added their insights, from the humble mudded trail leading to balms for the wealthy, to the powdered shell concoctions promising eternal vigor. This, in essence, encapsulates the heart of Byzantine innovation, blending wisdom and wonder, crafting remedies with reverence and rigor. Imagine a marketplace scene. The hum of voices, the pungent scents of herbs, and the soft clink of vials and jars. Among these sounds stands a vendor, specializing in the unassuming snail. From jars filled with snail-based cures to small baskets of live snails ready for on-the-spot extraction, each apothecary prided themselves on their unique blend of ingredients and rituals. Snails also made their way into respiratory remedies. Healers would recommend inhaling vapors from snail-infused broth. Picture a bustling household filled with the scent of aromatic steam, a slow, deliberate ritual performed daily as a preventative measure. The belief persisted that this mixture could protect and heal against the dreaded lungs congestion common in the damp streets of Constantinople. Even snails' eggs weren't free from transformative uses. Historians discovered texts detailing their application in staunching bleeding, a nod to their coagulant properties. Remember, this civilization was an incubator of surgical advancements. Hence, it's no surprise that these tiny, unassuming eggs were revered for their hemostatic abilities, adding yet another layer to the snail's versatility. The apothecaries' craft wasn't just about physical healing. They infused their practices with protective charms and purification rites. Snail shells, when pulverized, were mixed into pastes or even inhaled as powders during spiritual cleansings. Byzantine alchemists believed these rituals could ward off malevolent spirits, merging their medical and spiritual worlds seamlessly. Consider the practical applications through this lens. A healer holding a snail shell, whispering ancient prayers as they prepare yet another remedy. This intricate dance of science and spirit underscored their practices, each action rooted in centuries of transferred wisdom. And so, as we peel back the layers of Byzantium's healing traditions, we see how interwoven these small creatures were in the cultural fabric. The mollusks traveled across empires, from market stalls in Cairo to the grand avenues of Constantinople, leaving behind not just healing balms, but stories filled with mystique and marvel. In a world where medicine often dances on the line of folklore and fact, the humble snail stands tall, its essence carried forward through generations, its legacy interwoven in the very threads of human history. The trails it left behind served as a roadmap, guiding civilizations from myth into modernity, proving that sometimes the most unassuming beings can leave the most profound marks. As we trace these snail-threaded trails across time, let's savor the knowledge that in each glistening path lay secrets, ones that transformed everyday ailments into tales of ancient wisdom, carried through ages on the humble back of a snail. And maybe, just maybe, we still carry some of those ancient whispers within us today. Folklore imbued snails with a depth of mystique that transcended their tangible healing properties. You, an intrepid seeker of ancient secrets, now tread the thin line between fact and fairy tale. As whispers of snail legends curl around you, each story adds layers to Byzantium's rich tapestry of healing traditions. Picture apothecaries with knowing smiles, sharing how snails brought not only balms, but blessings. The mucus they exuded was said to carry the essence of the earth itself. Just imagine, every time you rubbed that glistening concoction onto your skin, you connected with something olden, almost sacred. Historians still argue whether snails were the bridge to realms unseen or just potent placebos. Some argue the mystical aspects overshadowed the practicality, that incantations were as potent as ingredients. A peculiar blend of reverence and reason, one that defined Byzantine practice. Recall those snail memory tonics, the fringe practices now sparking renewed interest in modern science. It's not just about collagen creams of old anymore. Even cognitive claims flicker dimly with potential, much like that peculiar croc dung sunscreen making rounds again, who knew ancient curiosity might hold untapped brilliance. Apothecaries often invoked blessings while mixing snail shells into potions. Pulverized shells not only healed, but purified, a ritual infusion meant to cleanse body and soul. As they ground each fragment, a small chant carried into the air, blending with the scent of herbs and ancient wisdom. It's rumored that snails even served in rituals to invoke protective spirits, a charm against malevolent whispers. Picture an apothecary's shelf, crowded with jars of these coiled healers, each a sentinel against the unseen realms. Each twist of their shell mirrored the labyrinthine paths of the soul, their journey both practical and profound. In market squares, vendors extolled a potion's virtues, a blend of honey, herbs, and snail mucus promising renewed vigor and vitality. The belief was simple: nature's alchemy, potent and direct. Buyers left clutching these elixirs, as if each drop held whispered secrets of the universe. Strangely enough, even snail eggs held a place in spiritual rites. Mixed with rare oils, their coagulant properties formed balms for warding off misfortune. These mundane objects, slimed, spiraled, and small, embodied a power beyond their physical gifts. They bridged Earth's realms, weaving human frailty with nature's strength. Alchemists believed each potion, each ritual, carried the snail's essence, melding science with soul. Healing wasn't merely mending flesh, it embraced harmony between seen and unseen, a connection to the world's deep, primal pulse. In each jar, every basket, a piece of olden mysticism thrived, carried forth by snails' unassuming presence. In this twilight realm of apothecary practice, where snails serve both sage and science, every cure carries the ancient's whisper. Their humble trail led not only to healing balms, but to a wisdom that threads through the ages, a whisper echoing from the Byzantine marketplace to our very modern musings. And as we meander through these stories of snail legends, remember, what once was considered the realm of folklore holds the magic of time's ancient whispers, bridging us from mythology to modernity, one glittering trail at a time. You find yourself tracing the echoes of Byzantine ingenuity, where snails weren't just creatures of the garden, but practical miracle workers. Byzantine apothecaries relied on these spiraled marvels, not for mere whimsy. Practicality reigned supreme in their ancient regimens. Picture bustling Constantinople, an empire humming with innovation and survival strategies. Here, snails offered more than just a dash of mysticism. They delivered tangible advantages in medicine, beauty remedies, and even daily sustenance. Their practical benefits were woven into the fabric of Byzantine life. Historians still argue whether snails were the cornerstone of apothecaries' practices or merely a convenient adjunct. But one thing remains clear: the logic behind using snails was rooted in empirical observation. These mollusks thrived in diverse environments, providing consistent, accessible benefits to the populace. Snail secretions yielded potent skin treatments. Picture a Byzantine market with vendors haggling over jars of mucus-based balms. They were prized for their remarkable healing qualities, leaving the skin not just smoother, but more resilient. It was an ancient equivalent of today's luxury collagen face masks, except this one emerged from a humble garden snail, a quirky relic from that time. The famed snail egg balms. Imagine egg sellers bustling about, their jars held aloft with knowing winks to potential buyers. These curious wares were reputed to coagulate when mixed with oils, a feature that rendered them perfect for creating thick, healing salves. Who knew such small orbs could harbor such grand utility? Byzantine apothecaries traveled too, their pockets teeming with mollusks kept alive for hours, perhaps even days. The ease of transporting tiny healers made snails an ideal staple, whether for a last-minute remedy or a simple skin treatment. These creatures were the ultimate portable toolkit. Some scholars suggest that snails' slime wasn't just for external use. It played a role in preserving foodstuffs. Think of a cook's pantry, where snails ensured that meats stayed fresh longer. A silent guardian against spoilage in an era without refrigeration. This fringe fact continues to pique curiosity, merging the lines between food preservation and traditional medicine. The humble snail, thus, became an emblem of Byzantine adaptability. You, in your quest, follow an apothecary's path, one where snails' practical traits interweaved with life's daily fabric. They were a logical choice, a living pharmacopoeia of benefits, embodying the marriage of utility and survival in a world that thrived on efficiency. And as you delve deeper into these ancient practices, consider our modern-day uses of snail secretion in pharmaceuticals, a revival of Byzantine wisdom. Does our contemporary reliance on collagen and natural enzymes harken back to those early empiricists? You realize that the wisdom of Constantinople's apothecaries extends beyond folklore. Their choices reflect a deep-seated practicality, underscoring snails' dual gift of healing and utility. In the labyrinth of their logic, these soft-bodied creatures were not just beneficial, but essential. They were constant companions, bridging the realms of necessity and wonder in a world where every tool had its place. Amid markets and potions, through chance and market banter, snails remained indispensable allies in Byzantium's storied quest for resilience. Amid Constantinople's swirling crowds, apothecaries thrived on cunning solutions, nature's hidden gems woven into their practices. You step into the sandals of a medieval healer, each day packed with patience, every treatment a blend of pragmatism and necessity. Snails, those unsung companions, weren't just garden dwellers, they were living remedies in a world where practicality ruled. Mainstream historians often highlight how Byzantine apothecaries meticulously blended herbal concoctions. But here's a quirky twist. Snails played a crucial role even in unexpected realms. Imagine apothecaries brewing concoctions in shadowy back rooms, while snails slipped their silvery trails into the mix, turning olden recipes into living salves. Historians still argue whether snail slime was as potent as garlic or rose oil in daily remedies. Some claim it rivaled the mightiest substances, while others whisper, with knowing grins, that its true power lay in symbolism. Yet those shimmering secretions held their ground, revered across bustling bazaars and hushed potion shops alike. Apothecaries navigated a world without refrigeration, and you can almost smell the herbal tang in those confined spaces. The absence of modern preservation methods made every resource vital. Snails, those small, humble mollusks, proved invaluable. Picture a healer pausing mid-chant, reaching for a jar of living mucus, blending it with crushed leaves and murmured prayers. Those tiny garden dwellers thrived in diverse spots, from cracked pavements to lush city verges. Apothecaries collected them as easily as we pick up our morning coffee. Their presence, a comforting rhythm in chaotic markets. Experts think snails' adaptability made them an accessible, reliable choice in Byzantium's resource-savvy society. Imagine setting off on a Byzantine medical mission, your pack brimming with herbs and salves. Among them, slithered snails, alive and ready, secreted away not for luxury balms alone. Their utility extended into food preservation. Think of a healer's pantry, snail secretion, coating precious meat, lending it days of longevity amidst the clamor of daily life. A fringe tale from that period whispers about snail shells used as miniature vials. Historians scoff, yet picture a healer tucking tinctures into tiny spiral homes, their iridescent coils gleaming in dim torchlight. Such tales, while debated, hint at the lengths apothecaries went to harness nature's bounty. Here's the kicker, traveler. Byzantine pragmatism was relentless. They valued substances that served multiple uses. Snails, unassuming as they were, offered versatility unmatched by mere plants. You can almost hear an apothecary's chuckle as their secret companions, a pocketful of snails, ensured survival in a world where every tool mattered. And in our modern frenzy of collagen masks and beauty potions, let's not forget those Byzantine empiricists. They wielded nature's tiny marvels with an expertise we're only now beginning to rediscover. Beneath those ancient city walls, practicality, and wonder intertwined, snail trails marking the path of wisdom forged in necessity. Those unsung gastropods slithered through the empire's veins, practical and indispensable. The whispers of their trails echo through time, reminding us of the ancients' unyielding quest for resilience with every coil and shimmer. A reminder emerges amid your journey. In Byzantium, no tool was too humble, no secret too obscure. Those tiny snails nestled in apothecaries. Pockets became emblems of survival, a testament to innovation born from adversity, and the unyielding logic that guided ancient wisdom's hands. So you tread carefully through those cobblestone alleys, feeling the spirit of those old apothecaries beside you. Their legacy pulses with each snail's slow, determined crawl through markets, chance, and the ever-adaptive fabric of ancient resilience. Every apothecary's tale, every patient's sigh, all interwoven with the unassuming magic of snails. Their utility shaped an era's healing arts, echoing through centuries where practicality and wonder danced seamlessly, leaving only the faintest trails for us to follow. And as you delve deeper, you can't help but marvel at their simplicity amid complexity. Those ancient healers knew practicality reigned supreme, a logic as enduring as the walls of Constantinople themselves. You wind your way through the narrow streets of Constantinople, a timeless dance between old and new. Every corner holds memories of Byzantine ingenuity, secrets that shaped a civilization's resilience and resourcefulness. The sprawling empire's reach wasn't just about military might. It was about ideas spreading like wildfire through merchants' whispers. Imagine an apothecary meeting in a secluded alcove, jars of vibrant herbs and mysterious vials laid before them. Their trade skills carried far beyond borders. Byzantium was a nexus where science mixed with art. Historians still argue whether the famed Viennese Codex contained snail-based treatments. They meticulously studied every page for hints of snail essence among herbs and amulets. While many believe the Codex focused on plants, some whisper there's more to read between the lines. After all, ancient remedies rarely relied on a single ingredient. Among whispers of healing formulas, stories abound of snails' lesser-known roles. Imagine apothecaries bartering for rare spices in market stalls, while secretly pocketing snails from the gardens. These creatures may not have been flashy, but their versatility kept shelves stocked and ailments mended across the empire. A quirky legend says monks used snail trails to divine future weather patterns. Picture an old stone abbey, hooded figures tracing snail paths through mossy nooks as they foretold storms or sunny days. Whether the lore holds water or not, it highlights how deeply even the strange secrets became woven into daily life. You can almost hear the hum of activity, apothecaries bustling, alchemists crafting mysterious compounds, while snails nestled in pockets like tiny good luck charms. Remember those tailies of snail slime preserving meats. Such quirks reflect how each resource mattered in a world before refrigeration, where every edge against rot counted. Constantinople itself, that crossroads city, thrived partly because of its healers' networks. From Persian routes to Arab silk roads, these apothecaries' exchanges spanned continents. A soft whisper suggesting they may have influenced practices in distant lands through goods, whispers, and perhaps even creatures like snails. Historians still argue over who influenced whom in medicine. Did those Greek formulas reach India, morphing along the way? Or did Persian alchemists bring new snail uses back to Byzantium? The lines blur. Empires blended practices at their edges, letting knowledge slip through cracks and recombine. Picture an Arabian healer exchanging old papyrus scrolls and perhaps tiny snail shells filled with Byzantine know-how. In return, you could be sipping sweet tea outside a lively bazaar as ideas cross paths, each trade blending worlds together. The fringes of history often hold truths stranger than the mainstream. Apothecaries weren't just merchants, they were archivists of ancient wisdom. Snails helped them preserve so much more than food. The little mollusks became living links to a sprawling empire's wisdom, echoing practices as their trails crisscrossed the old streets. Those healers understood resilience. Survival in harsh terrains meant valuing every available tool. From food to medicine, snails embodied Byzantine practicality. The empire's fall marks much loss, but amid ruins, their clever adaptations linger in whispered tailies. We trace those threads today through dusty libraries or chance museum wanderings. Scholars sift through crumbling texts, uncovering hints of slug trails and apothecaries' secrets left for future generations to decipher. Even fringe stories now hint at truth long buried. The empire left more than stone walls. Byzantine apothecaries, their unassuming snail companions, and a culture of relentless pragmatism carved paths still traceable today. Those humble choices, keeping what's vital, ensured knowledge flowed across time. And here you are, treading those same ancient stones, snail wisdom tucked into their successors' pockets. Perhaps in your apothecary's garden hides a mollusk, yet to yield its secrets. Each story layer, each quirky twist, blends Byzantium's past into the fabric of healing's present. So you carry those whispers with you. Snail slime's ancient efficacy, stories half believed, and a lineage of practical wisdom. Beneath modern frenzy, the spirit of innovative survival remains, marked by trails still shimmering through time's veil. Contemporary experts delve deep into Byzantium's archives, tracing apothecaries' secrets anew. You'd think modern science moved past snails, right? But here's the twist. Labs now resurrect old remedies. The question remains, whose whispers truly shaped the field? In university basements, historians comb through crumbling parchment, not for dusty accolades, but living methods. They uncover surprising uses hidden in plain sight, from snail mucus balms to mollusk shells used as makeshift pillboxes. Imagine professors debating snail efficacy over coffee, their laptops displaying ancient diagrams. A quirky example comes from the Greek Isles. Some villages insist ancestral texts used snails as ink components. Really? So while you browse academic journals, there's a rogue footnote about Byzantine squid ink. Did snails blend into their missives? Historians still argue whether we've only scratched the surface of their ink origins. Modern revivals embrace snail slime's antibacterial properties. Researchers test compounds in sterile labs, but some invoke Byzantine methodologies. It's a strange dance between old and new, like mixing algorithms with ancient chants. And occasionally, skeptical scientists admit these snails might just be the next big breakthrough. You picture conferences where experts showcase mucin peptide analysis, their modern terms echoing apothecaries, hushed tones. Every discovery links past wisdom with future potential, Byzantium's whispers echoing through sterile equipment. Here's where the ancient empire mingles with today's tech, surprising everyone who thought snails only offered slow wisdom. Yet, amidst gleaming devices, the spirit of old apothecaries persists. Contemporary snailceuticals reference those same trails that wove through Constantinople's alleys. Scientists still argue if current lab results finally validate what Byzantine alchemists always knew: nature's simplest creatures might hold our most profound breakthroughs. Laboratories now hum with the resonance of Byzantium's past. In one corner, a PhD candidate gently cracks a snail shell, testing old legends about powder uses. Remember those tales of snail trails predicting weather? Experts suggest ancient observers were onto early biochemistry, using mucus ratios to anticipate storms. So while we laugh at snail-based seers, experts uncover patterns worth modern respect. The line blurs between archaic wisdom and cutting-edge science. When apothecaries whispered nature's pharmacy, they saw potential we're only now reaching. That slow-motion world, teeming with humble creatures, connects unexpectedly to today's fast-paced discoveries. From snails in pockets to labs under microscopes, their resilience shaped both empires and our current curiosity. Each new academic paper references Byzantine precedents. Modern methods trace back to those alleys of Constantinople, where alchemists' footsteps resonate through time. Today's snail studies, descendants of that rich historical hum, proving wisdom is never truly lost, only waiting for the right whisperer. You walk these same intellectual stones today, balancing new tech with old truths. Modern labs host debates filled with familiar echoes, Byzantine whispers through sterile masks. This marriage of eras is where snail trails lead us, full circle, to an enduring dance between past knowledge and future discoveries. contemporary laboratories hum with the spirit of ancient Constantinople, Byzantine whispers guiding modern microscopes. Snail studies today owe so much to those apothecaries wandering through the alleys. Now, researchers in white coats scrutinize snail compounds, balancing history with science. Imagine walking into a modern lab where beakers hold more than just chemicals. They carry the essence of Byzantine practices, revived with contemporary rigor. Scientists test snail mucin properties, seeking modern applications for age-old remedies. Each drop examined holds echoes of alchemists' whispers, their methods resonating through centuries. One notable fact: Byzantine apothecaries crafted remedies that combined natural elements, snails included. They believed snails could accelerate healing, their mucus infused with mysterious properties. Today's researchers echo these thoughts. Snail mucin serums for skin now fill pharmacy shelves, but their roots remain firmly planted in Byzantium. Let's dive into a curious detail. In some old texts, scholars mention snail-derived ink used for important manuscripts. Imagine quills dipped in mollusk mucus rather than traditional inks. Historians explore whether these texts contained secrets carried literally by snails. Did crucial messages slide from snail trails onto parchment, influencing eras that followed? The debate simmers. Historians still argue whether snail use extended beyond remedies into deeper symbolism. For Byzantine scholars, did each snail carried serve not just medicinal, but spiritual significance? You visualize debates heated by such curiosity. Ancient practices dissected under modern scrutiny. Scholars' arguments intertwine nature, medicine, philosophy, converging in that slow-crawling world. Yet, snail studies surge ahead. Today's scientists isolate peptides from mucin, testing their efficacy in everything from cosmetics to medical treatments. Each experiment links directly back to those wandering apothecaries and their snail-filled pockets. Byzantine alchemists unknowingly laid the groundwork for today's breakthroughs, their whispers now guiding sterile labs. And let's not forget the quirkier side. Some researchers claim snail mucus could even have been used in rudimentary explosives. The idea might sound fringe, but recall how snail substances played diverse roles. Historians wonder, did they experiment more than we credit them? Each new discovery peels back layers, revealing just how innovative Byzantine practices were. You stand at the crossroads of ancient and modern, holding a vial that represents centuries of knowledge. Byzantine alchemists might find it fascinating that their snail wisdom still resonates, blending with today's tech. The past's gentle whispers and the present's eager curiosities meld, guiding both eras toward new discoveries. Snails, those resilient, slow-moving creatures, traverse centuries with surprising agility. From Byzantine apothecaries, pockets, to modern laboratories, they carry forth nature's untapped potential. Each research breakthrough reaffirms how Byzantium's alchemists were ahead of their time. Nature's simple marvels still hold profound secrets. Contemporary science might dissect molecules, but the essence of discovery remains unchanged. As beakers bubble with possibilities, you can almost hear those ancient alchemists, their whispers merging with modern revelations. Each snail a testament to timeless wisdom. Today's innovations trace back through Byzantium, proving some truths are eternal, waiting only for us to listen. Echoes of Byzantine healing methods ripple into today's world, modern practices shaped by ancient wisdom. Those slow-wending snails in apothecaries pockets now inspire entire industries, fusing heritage with innovation. As you walk through bustling markets, vibrant shops hint at past remedies reinvented for present lives, each a testament to enduring heritage. In bustling Istanbul's grand bazaar, vendors still echo the city's alchemical past. Spice stalls carry herbs that Byzantine alchemists treasured. Amid saffron and sumac, you find modern skincare products branded with Snail mucin. History's whispers condensed into slick serums. Those old practices now glisten in glass jars, bridging antiquity to today's regimes. The Byzantine Empire's influence stretched east and west, silk routes not just for fabrics, but knowledge. You picture caravans threading through deserts, apothecaries sharing not only spices, but snail secrets. Historians still argue whether snails were an alchemical standard or merely regional oddities. Across empires, remedies swapped hands, ideas flowing like traded silks and spices. A quirky footnote: some legends whisper Byzantine monks used snail slime to decorate sacred texts. Imagine monks laboring by candlelight, snails kept nearby for their mucilaginous pigment. Such embellishment might sound exaggerated, but fringe theories suggest snail secretions contained ingredients beyond mere ink. The debate endures. Did their artistry hold healing secrets in disguise? As you wander through modern pharmacies, shelves showcase snail-infused creams. Once mere apothecaries' whispers, snail wisdom becomes mainstream miracles, lab coats replacing cloaks of yore. Scientists isolate peptides, seeking solutions those ancient alchemists barely dreamed of. Herein lies the bridge from olden Constantinople's alleys to today's clinical cleanliness, snails, the unlikely connectors across eras. And let's muse on a zany claim: snails contributing to early pyrotechnics. Was mucin more than medicinal? Some suggest its properties lent to explosive experiments. Fringe, yes, but fascinating. Did Byzantine alchemists stretch snail use beyond salves and scripts? The question stirs curiosity. What innovations thrived beyond recorded parchment? You stand at a fascinating intersection, witnessing history's handoffs. Byzantine whispers guide genetic sequences, each breakthrough a nod to those wandering healers. The past's quiet footsteps and the present's determined strides meld Two eras conversing across centuries. Alchemy becomes lab science, but retains its core, nature's silent wisdom waiting to be unlocked. The journey remains unfinished. As you explore, snippets of history weave through current discoveries, those age-old methods, now modernized marvels, beckon further inquiry. Echoes of Byzantine labs resonate in contemporary innovations, a seamless journey where snails remain integral. The quest continues, snail trails guiding seekers old and new toward revelations yet untold. You continue your journey through history. Where did these snails leave their mark next? Echoes of Byzantine medicine still ripple across time. Historians pore over texts. Some say snail slime was more than just medicinal. Fringe theories suggest it might have been used in metallurgy, softening metal for delicate instruments. Experts think it even served decorative roles, used to polish olden artifacts to a glistening finish. Modern apothecaries may carry snail serums, but their roots stretch far deeper. Ancient formulas combined snails with rare herbs, and some of those mysterious mixtures live on, albeit in refined form. You notice brands today that blend snail mucin with potent vitamins, continuing that old alchemy, science, and nature intertwining yet again. Consider those old apothecaries' daily routines. They traveled through bustling marketplaces, much like today's shoppers. Their pockets might have held not just snails, but herbs and charms, each item playing a vital role in their practices. Historians still argue whether each snail carried was a therapeutic treasure or simple superstition, perhaps both. A quirky reminder arises. Remember the idea of snails contributing to pyrotechnics. Though largely dismissed, the notion remains an intriguing puzzle piece. Modern experiments hint at snail slime's sticky properties, assisting in adhesives, prompting more questions about its past uses. Who knew these slow-moving creatures harbored such versatile potential? Scientists today look to medieval practices, finding merit where once there was myth. Genetic sequencing reveals the same peptides Byzantine alchemists harnessed for healing. You smile picturing them, working through candlelight, snails in hand, unknowingly paving the way for today's innovations. As you explore pharmacies filled with snail-based skincare, think of the snail's journey, past to present. Did those early alchemists dream their creations would span centuries, from olden Constantinople to your modern mirror? Snail wisdom transcends time, each remedy a bridge between eras. The debate carries on. Did snails hold hidden secrets beyond the obvious? Fringe tales suggest snail mucin even played a role in conserving precious scrolls. Imagine the lengths to which Byzantine monks went, balancing science and scripture, their snails integral to both worlds. The speculation continues, blending fact and fiction beautifully. Walk through labs today, see scientists peering into microscopes, where snail peptides combat aging lines. Each revelation nudges us further, driven by echoes of those silent alchemy nights. Old whispers transform into lab breakthroughs, peptides isolated, mucin harnessed. Snails remain the unsung heroes linking past wisdom with future promise. You stand, witnessing a seamless handoff from the quiet feet of old alchemists to the swift strides of modern inventors. The same snail trails guide seekers old and new, ancient wisdom sparking today's innovations. As you ponder history's hidden pathways, it's clear the marvels of yesterday shape tomorrow, with snails lingering as timeless guides. You can't escape them. Snails have been through it all. As we dig deeper, their presence remains unwavering across eras and empires. Consider the Egyptian kings, those illustrious rulers with their golden thrones and towering obelisks. Historians still argue whether Egyptians first introduced snail-based treatments to Byzantium. Some records suggest ancient scroll exchanges might have carried this secret cargo across deserts and seas. And if we dive into fringe theories, we'd even discover an underground market where snails bred for their potent slimes were traded like jewels, tiny, gooey treasures. Walking through the Byzantine Empire, where the scent of spices mingled with the distant echoes of chariots, it's clear snails mattered. Not just for their slow, deliberate pace, but for their surprising versatility. You imagine an alchemist cloaked in robes, hands stained by centuries-old potions, plucking a snail before dawn. That same creature carried hopes of healing, carried whispers from epochs before. Fast forward, Byzantium falls, but the snails adapt. Experts now ponder if medieval practices weren't solely rooted in medicine. Some speculate they played key roles in textile production, their mucus offering a smoother, silken thread. As you trace threads of history, this possibility weaves intrigue into the familiar narrative. Today, we admire snail-infused silk from high-end fabrics, a luxury we've mostly forgotten to attribute back to ancient know-how. Medieval artisans probably shared knowing smiles as they watched silkworms intertwine with mollusk mucin, a collaboration centuries ahead of its time. The Byzantine obsession might have been about more than just healing. Historians still discuss whether snails were omen carriers too. Some texts hint at their use in rudimentary weather forecasting, slimy barometers foretelling rainfall or dry spells, aiding both farmers and traders. Could these creatures have served as tiny oracles? Your thoughts linger on Constantinople's cobblestone streets, markets buzzing with vendors, hawking snail balms alongside freshly baked bread. It's this blend of everyday usage with the mystical, the real amidst the rumored, that paints snails as timeless companions. Remember our alchemist, cloaked and deliberate, working late with candle glow. Each meticulous motion, each whispered incantation, those were acts rooted in centuries of practice. Acts where snails became more than creatures, they turned into lorekeepers. Even in the New World, explorers carried tiny snails across oceans. Speculation lingers. How many ships sailed with secret crawlies stowed away, carrying hopes of new trade, new medicine. Historians still argue whether Columbus had a snail aboard, perhaps as cure or curiosity. Tiny vessels for immense curiosity in a vast new ocean. Now look around, cosmetic shelves gleaming with promises of eternal youth. That's a direct lineage from alchemists' trials and scribes' theories. Snail-based skin care isn't just a fad. It's a revival of persistent wisdom. As laboratories hum with new discoveries, those ancient trails grow ever more relevant, ever more potent. When you ponder the snail's relentless presence across borders, through time, its roles expand. They've survived where many faded. That resilience, those tiny footstep trails through our shared past, carry whispers, tales we've almost forgotten to recall. These mollusk memories trace pathways we've largely overlooked. They remind us that in slow persistence, there's profound wisdom, layers upon layers of history, embedded in that tiny, spiraled shell. And as we stand before glowing screens or dusty manuscripts, those snails continue weaving through both our stories and future's fabric. Remember the ancient scrolls, the whispered marketplaces, the glint of gold and gleam of textile threads. Each tale is a reminder, persistent, unassuming, that snails aren't just relics, but constant witnesses to human ingenuity, steadfast in their quiet crawl, steadfast in their silent echo through history's tapestry. Snails remain the timeless guides, steadfast across every fall and rise, their presence etched deeply into the very essence of our questing footprints. These tiny, persistent creatures have seen empires crumble and rise again. Just think, as Byzantium itself fell, those snails remained, not a glamorous end, but a steady continuation, slow and resolute. They weave through legends, through markets, and even through your quiet nights. You're wandering the cobbled echoes of Constantinople now, perhaps touching the cool, worn stones. Byzantium wasn't merely a place. It stood as a nexus where East met West, an alchemical cradle. Among its remnants, snails survived, adapting. Their resilience alone becomes a lesson in endurance, echoing whispers of survival through centuries. In today's bustling urban mazes, you'll find remnants of their past virtues. Historians still argue whether snail slime's famed skin healing properties originate from early Roman practices or Byzantine innovation. Some quirky theories even suggest snail slime may have been a clandestine ingredient in Cleopatra's legendary beauty regimen, perhaps contributing to glow not gold alone could achieve. Modern labs now peer into these ancient cures, but those old alchemists intuitively understood. They meticulously gathered snails, perhaps after dawn broke a cool, misty morning, carrying the hope they'd unlock further treatments. The fringe, yet somehow compelling notion floats. Were those snails also their tiny fortune tellers in those markets where balms intermingled with bread? Perhaps whether patterns shifted subtly based on those mollusks' behavior. When you pick up a snail-infused serum, it's like holding centuries of ingenuity in your palm. You're not just hydrating skin, you're connecting with a continuum. Experts still debate how much medieval beauty rituals influenced Renaissance practices, perhaps carrying over snail essence whispers lost to most histories. As you ponder their journey across dusty scrolls and ship manifests, remember, each snail, each tiny footstep echoes through our quiet moments. Laboratories re-examine ancient scripts, finding traces of those slow-moving, slime-secreting wonders. Byzantium may have crumbled, but snails persist, a living echo through ages, connecting us to wisdom, both olden and new. Their presence today in skincare or medicine isn't just a nod to trends. It's a bridge to our shared past, tiny trails threading our long-forgotten heritage into modern narratives. That makes each bedtime ritual a quiet homage to Byzantine alchemists, Egyptian whispers, and those slow, relentless creatures, steadfast through it all. Consider, too, that many might dismiss their roles as mere survival or mere utility, but as ancient markets bustle still in imagination, as you smooth snail-based balm on tired skin, an alchemical lineage remains unbroken, resilient, whispering across time. Those creatures remind us continuity exists even in the quietest crawl. They've seen the fall and rise of empires, served as mystics and healers, and traversed oceans' widest stretches. Snails connect us across epochs, across knowledge, offering not just medicinal or cosmetic secrets, but a thread to humanity's slow, persistent journey. Each night you pause, feeling the cool glide of their legacy on your skin, you touch a continuity, a testament to our perpetual quest. So, in your calm end of day, as ancient wisdom meets modernity, recall those mollusks, tiny, steadfast sentinels, carry not just mucus, but memory. Through falling empires and rising dawns, they endure. As you weave their tailies into tonight's quiet, they're not merely relics under glass. They're a living pulse, threading history through the silence of your dreams. The world outside dims, lights fading like twilight over olden city walls, leaving just you and those centuries of silent, crawling whispers. Byzantium fell, but its alchemists' wisdom lingers. They saw value in humble snails, in moments where your skin feels the embrace of ancient secrets. Remember the cobblestone paths, those markets thriving on the edges of mystery. Your fingers glide softly, touching cool balm, perhaps dreaming of dawn mists weaving through garden paths where snails traced hope. Experts thought their humble mucus healed, and perhaps the glow of olden royalty glimmered with such alchemical echoes. Each balm tells a story, not of kingdoms lost, but wisdom gathered through relentless persistence. Modern labs peer into those secrets now, yet snails remind us of simplicity amid complexities. Empires crumble, kings rise and fall, but here, steady and gentle, is life carried on. You're not merely applying cream, you're weaving tailies, olden and new, through your own quiet nightly ritual. It's as if Cleopatra's glow or Byzantine whispers softly linger in each stroke, as soothing as dreams. So when you rest tonight, imagine a snail's tiny pulse beating steady through centuries, a living bridge connecting empires, legacies, and you. They traverse time silently, offering not just relief for weary skin, but solace in continuity. As you drift into gentle slumber, feel them, those ancient alchemists' wisdom, those steady snails. In the silence of your dreams, you're held by stories enduring, resilient, weaving through the quiet of time itself. Close your eyes. Each night, let this quiet blend of ancient care and modern rest cradle you. In that delicate space between awareness and deep dream, let the snail's wisdom and the alchemist's hope settle over you. Sleep now, held by echoes of the past. Let dreams, soft as snail trails, gently guide you